Hi guys, welcome back to another week of our Christmas marathon. And today we'll be painting this Christmas winter scenery using this reference photo. So if you're interested, I'll have the link available in the description below, so do check it out. Okay, let's talk about brushes. So we'll be using this big flat brush. I'm using one with a natural hair, mix of natural hair. And we will need this for laying out the large areas in the background. And then next, I have two sizes of mop brush with me, one larger and one smaller size. And then a synthetic brush for painting in those tiny details. And then here I have a synthetic flat brush. This one is, it comes with a very hard bristles, good for splattering snows, white paints at the end of the painting. And then here's another synthetic angled brush that I'll be using later on to paint in the water ripples. Yeah, so these are the brushes that I'll be using for today's painting. And for the colors I'll be using for the mountains, I'm going to go a little darker than in the reference photo, so I'll be using neutral tint. For the mountains. Okay, and then for the trees, I'll be mixing this turquoise with dark green. To get this greenish blue color. So we have this shade here. This will be used for the trees. And then for the trees further in front, I'm going to have them a little darker by mixing a little more green. So the green that I'm using is greenish umber. So I'm having more greenish umber to make it look darker. So we have this for the darker shadows. And then same for the waters, the lake. I'll be painting out the reflections. So we'll be using the same colors of the neutral tint from the mountains and then the greens. And then for the wooden cabin, we have yellow ochre. We have yellow ochre and a little bit of burnt umber for the house here. And then of course we will have white paints, watercolor white paints for the snow splatters at the end. So yeah, these are the colors that we'll be using. And then here is my pencil sketch. If you like to paint along, feel free to pause right here to follow along this pencil sketch. And then next, we will dive right in to start painting. Okay, so let's start off with the skies. So let's just dive right in using the very light shade of blue. Let's use a bigger mop brush. I'm just using the colors that I already have on my palette, which is a mixture of turquoise and a little bit of neutral tint. Okay, and then just going to paint over like so. Just leave out the mountains for now. Okay, let's lift this up. And then moving over to a smaller brush. Now I'm going in with neutral tint. And you get like a dry brush like this. Okay, and then just go in So with this really dry brush, I get all these harsh brush strokes. I'm going to fill in the rest around here. You want to leave out, you want to have these dry brush strokes so you get all these white spaces in between. And it's okay if you touch the sky. I'm going to let it blend out a little bit. Okay, let's do another one here. Like for the ones further in the background, just going to soften that to make it more blurry. Okay, so once I have that laid out with just water, I'm going to blend out the bottom. Okay, I'm going to leave this for now and then we'll come back to that later. Maybe just add some more mountains in the distance. And then let's move on down to the trees. For this, I'm going to mix turquoise with greenish umber. Okay, and I want to create some really soft background here. So using this brush, I'm going to wet the entire area at the bottom. I'm going to leave some gaps at the top. All the way down here, down to the lake. And then let's fill this in. Okay, and then for this area, I'm going to paint in more visible trees. And I'm going to increase the value a little bit more, make it a little darker by adding more greenish umber. We have this larger tree here. Then let's go a little darker. Okay, and then now I'm going in with greenish umber. Let's add and build more shadows. Okay, so now let's work on the lake. Okay, with the same brush, I'm going to pre-wet this area of the lake. So I'm going to have this brown wooden cabin here and we'll have that reflection coming down. So I'm going to add in some yellow ochre with a bit of burnt sienna. Okay, and then let's fill up the rest. I'm going to use the colors from the trees and then paint it in like so. With water, I'm going to just blend out some of that browns before we transition into the greens. Let's have more turquoise around the side and then go darker with neutral tint from the mountains. And then let's darken this area a little more for some added contrast. And since we have a taller tree here, I'm going to darken and add a bit of shadow from that. Let's use this brush to do a lifting technique. So wet your brush and then remove excess water. And let's create some ripples. So it's going to take a few tries for it to come out because the water is still flowing around. I'm going to try with this area. Okay, you can see this is more prominent now because it's a little more dry. Okay, and then let's add some ripples as well. I'm going in with a darker green. I'm using this synthetic brush. So we do not, for these ripples, we do not want it to be too wet, so almost like a dry brush. Because the paper is still wet, so we don't want to have that cauliflower effect. So we go in with dry brush on a wet paper. And then let's draw out some ripples. You can see with the dry brush, it turns out just nice. And it wouldn't turn out being too watery and then spreading all over the place. Let's add more ripples around here. Okay, that will do. Okay, so now let's fill in the colors for the snow and the cabin. And for the roof, I'm going to just use the colors from the sky. Okay, and then let's fill in the snow as well, just painting in the shadows. Alright, so we are pretty much done with our first layer. I'm going to give this a quick dry and then we'll come back to start adding in all these details for our painting. Okay, so this is completely dry. Be sure that your paper is very dry before we move on to the next layer. For the second layer, besides adding in all the final details, our aim is also to add more shadows and darken these areas here. And that will help to create more depth in the painting. So for here, let's go in and I'm going to define a little more the shape of this larger tree that's in front of us. So I'll just grab greenish umber and then going in with a thicker paint, much thicker than the mixture that we used earlier in the first layer. Going in and painting out, this time shaping in more on the shape of the tree. So it's like a V shape, upside down V shape. And then as you go downwards, you make your brush strokes bigger. Don't be afraid to go as dark as possible because later we will bring back some highlights using white paints. And I'm going to fill in this white areas which I left out. Okay, and we are done. For the final step, let's add in the snow. So I'm just going to squeeze out some white paints. And I've decided to bring out this tiny bowl here to squeeze out just for this white paint, since we will be painting lots of Christmas scenery where we will need a lot of white paints for snow. Okay, before we do that, I'm going to add some snow sitting on these larger trees. So adding white paints at the end is really helpful because it helps to also save your painting if you make any mistakes. And most importantly, it helps to bring back the highlights. I'm just going to add a second layer on top to make it look like a thick blot of snow. Okay, so again, another quick dry. Okay, so fully dry now. Let's do the splatters. Let's use this one. Okay, and then I'm gonna do a big one. Let's do a big one here. Okay, we are done. So yeah, this is how the final painting looks like. The original version of this tutorial is actually an hour long, so I've included the full 1 hour long tutorial up on Patreon if you'd like to have the full version. Otherwise, I'm also making this available under YouTube membership. And yeah, that's all from me today. I hope you enjoyed watching me paint. If you did paint along, do tag me on Instagram. I'd love to see and share your works. Happy painting, guys, and I will see you in the next Christmas marathon.